just held him in my hand. I just kept saying, honey, wake up, wake up.
My baby, my son is gone. I would just wish it all just stop. I just wish it all stop.
Turn them guns in, put them down.
But nobody can bring them back.
It's my nephew today, and tomorrow it may be your son or it may be your daughter.
We must stop the violence. We must continue to give life instead of taking life.
Ain't nobody out here to help us. We need a lot of help out here. We're tired of it. We're tired.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of Art Fennell Reports. I'm Art Fennell, the host and the moderator for this, a town hall meeting breaking the cycle of violence. We are here on the campus of Temple University in Philadelphia, and we have gathered here members of the community. We have gathered some of the best and the foremost minds in this area, in this entire region. We want to talk about the problem that has been plaguing our streets, our communities, our cities, and in fact, our country. People are dying. They're being killed through senseless acts of violence. We're losing our children. We're losing our loved ones. We are losing our peacekeeping officers. Something must be done. And so this discussion is an opportunity to not only talk about the problem, but to try and find solutions. We have much to go through the course of this program. Let me begin by introducing you the panelists who will guide the discussions. Harriet Spencer. Ms. Spencer has served as the Executive Director for the Mayor's Office for the Reentry of Ex-Offenders in Philadelphia. Ms. Spencer provides the administrative and the operational oversight for the city-wide reentry collaborative programs. The Honorable Harold James. Representative James currently serves as Majority Chairman of the Oversight Committee, and he sits on the Judiciary, the Agricultural, and Rural Affairs Committees. State Representative Harold James received honorable discharge from the U.S. Army and had distinguished service for 2 decades on the Philadelphia Police Department. Michael Cord is here with us. Michael Cord is a criminal defense attorney with 15 years of state and federal trial experiences. Specializing in murder cases, he is also an adjunct professor of hip-hop in the African Studies Department at Temple University. The Honorable Lynn Abraham. She is the district attorney for the city of Philadelphia and has been responsible for the prosecution of more than 70,000 criminal cases yearly and oversees a professional staff of 300 assistant district attorneys since 1991. Dr. R. Dandridge Collins. He's the author of the bestseller, The Trauma Zone. Completed a Master's of Divinity in Pastoral Psychology at Palmer Theological Seminary and has his PhD degree in counseling from Temple University. Finally, Richard Ross. Richard Ross is the Deputy Commissioner for the Philadelphia Police Department with 18 years of service to that department. He is presently the Deputy of Internal Affairs and Gun Control Strategies. Let's have another round of applause for our panelists. I'd like to call to come and give remarks and a prayer for this occasion the Reverend Robert Shine and Minister Rodney Muhammad from the Nation of Islam.
Invaded by the demons of violence, drugs, guns, crimes that come to rob, kill, and destroy our homes, families, and neighborhoods, a state of emergency does exist, whether declared or undeclared, and we must formally respond. Moving from protest to progress, from marching to motivating, from vigils to victory, from more families bereaved to more youth educated and employed, from rhetoric to redemption. There is an oughtness that brings us here today. We ought to be about our Father's business, saving our brothers and sisters from a life of lostness, hopelessness, and haplessness. There is a mustness about what we are doing here today. We must do this. If we're going to save our society, we have to save every private Ryan and every neighborhood from the demons of violence, that is regularly occurring on our city streets. It's time to break the cycle of violence. Thank you.
We got to get tired of seeing this urban carnage. There's a silent majority in Philadelphia that's not participating in this. We can't afford to sit in the bleachers thinking that the only people that are involved are victims and victimizers. We all are victims already, but we just have not had it reach our doorstep yet. And I'm telling you that when you see your neighbor's house on fire, don't sit relaxed because there's a wind blowing. And if you don't get a bucket of water and help your neighbor, soon the fire that's at your neighbor's home will find itself at your own doorstep. That's why we're here today, to get a bucket of water and stop the fire. God bless you all and keep you. Assalamu alaikum.
One thing that's been real clear to me as we've had this discussion over and over and over again is that you can't get away from the guns. Guns, guns, guns. We've got laws on the books, gun laws on the books, but are they working? And if so, and if not, why aren't they working?
Well, I'll tell you, first and foremost, the proliferation of guns on our streets is at the root of the very problem we're discussing. First and foremost, obviously we have a plethora of gun laws. However, I mean, some of the more fundamental ones that we would like to see, i.e., the requirement to report your gun lost or stolen. The average person doesn't even realize that, you don't even have a responsibility like you do with your vehicle. If your vehicle is stolen, you have to report that to the police department. You don't even have that same responsibility. And imagine what that does, in our city and across our country if those who are inclined to do illegal acts, there's really nothing from the outset that prevents and precludes them from selling guns illegally. There are several other things, one gun a month. I mean, there's some people, across our Commonwealth who believe that's not going to stem the tide of violence. I vehemently disagree with them. I mean, the gun laws are something that I think can help us make significant inroads in reducing the tide of violence in our city.
Well, if the laws are on the books and they're not working, why are they still on the books?
I guess that's something we'd have to ask and raise to some other folks.
I think there's something more at play than that. First of all, maybe Representative James will co-sponsor a one handgun a month bill, because I think we need his leadership in that. And I think that we have to recognize throughout this country, and I know this is being beamed from Florida to Maine and beyond, that the NRA has every legislator in rural communities bamboozled. The legislature of Pennsylvania just doesn't want to man up to it, just like the Congress doesn't want to man up to the NRA and tell them all to take a hike, that they're changing the laws and to get over it.
Will it work to stop and frisk? This has been highly controversial. Let's talk about that. Stop and frisk. That means everybody could get stopped and get frisked to take away a gun that they may or may not be carrying. Let me hear some feedback from anyone who will address it.
Jump in. I know there was a lot of talk during the recent election about Michael Nutter's plan for stop and frisk. I think but the police department hit in the head when they said this is nothing new. Since 1968, under Terry versus Ohio, the police have always been able to stop and frisk. The only new twist in what Mayor-elect Nutter is saying is he would do his plan based on first declaring a state of emergency in Philadelphia. And to the extent that he implements the state of emergency, that's a frightening concept, because we get well beyond the law today under stop and frisk, because with the state of emergency, now the mayor can stop people from traveling, from driving, from congregating, curfew laws, and from even coming outside.
Would you be relieved or offended if you were stopped and frisked?
Totally offended if I was not engaging in any suspicious activity.
By show of hands in the audience, if you were stopped and frisked on the street, obviously you're doing nothing, maybe you're going to the grocery store, but in an effort to try and make our streets safer, would you be in favor of it or not? Show of hands if you'd be in favor of being stopped and frisked. That's about a quarter of the audience.
How about again?
Just about a quarter of the audience. So that shows you the pulse, and I guess it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, we want to be secure, but on the other hand, we don't want to be inconvenienced.